Alright, in this video, what we want to do is provision a RDS database. So we're going to set up a MySQL database using Amazon RDS. So I am logged into Amazon. I'm going to come over here to Services. And we can see over here under Database, I am going to go to RDS. Now we can see that we have a nice little splash screen here. And look, we have a brand new RDS console, so I'm not going to provide feedback at this time. So that's one of the things. I'm recording this in December of 2017. Amazon is always making updates to their UI. So apparently this is a new UI. So a year from now, after the recording, so this could be slightly different. So what we want to do is launch a new instance. I'm going to come over here to Instances. And I am going to select the launch DB instance. You can see that we also have a restore from S3. And what Amazon is going to do is do database backups to S3. So you can take a backup and restore it. But we are going to create a brand new database instance. And now we have several engines. These are all really good. Aura is effectively a MySQL, I guess Postgres too, compatible, and it's supposed to be very performant. I'm going to stick with traditional MySQL for right now, not to confuse things. So MySQL is just fine. We are not going to be doing anything crazy in terms of scalability. And then also MariaDB, that is a fork of MySQL. So a few years ago, Oracle wound up buying MySQL. I'm trying to remember what, I think they were owned by Sun Microsystems, and when Oracle bought Sun Microsystems, they also inherited MySQL because that was property of Sun. And I could have that wrong, but when Oracle obtained MySQL, the founders of MySQL forked MySQL to MariaDB to preserve the open source nature. But so far, Oracle's done a good job of overseeing MySQL and hasn't done anything, well, Oracle-like. So we're going to continue with MySQL. And we do have several options here. And we are going to use the dev test. So we have the production. Obviously, Amazon's pushing their Aurora class, but we are going to go ahead and take the dev test one. And this will also run if you're running on a free account that qualifies for the free usage tier. And you do have several options here. I don't see any reason to take something other than the latest version of MySQL. And at the time, for me, it's the 5637. Actually, take this 5719. We'll take the latest. And I'm going to click here to enable options for the free tier. And we can see this is DB2 T2 Micro, which is one virtual CPU and 1 gigabyte of RAM. That is perfectly fine. And let's just do 10 gigabyte of storage. And that's going to be fine. And we're getting the general purpose SSD. So I'm specifying some things here, and I'm going to set a password. Since this is just a sandbox, I'm going to set the username and password to the same. Very bad habit, but I'm just keeping it simple because this is going to be long gone before you guys ever see this video. So I am keeping it simple for myself and our configuration. Obviously, you want to do something a little more creative than running for brews for your ID and password. Okay, now it's asking us for our virtual private cloud. We could create a new VPC. This is the same VPC that's being used. So let's go ahead and double check that. I'm going to come up here and say services, open in a new tab. And let's come over here to EC2. And what I want to do is take a look at that running instance. And you can see here the VPC ID. I'm just going to look at the last four. So we've got 4E3F. And we can see 4E3F. So we're running in the same VPC. Just a double check there because we want these two to be able to talk to each other. So I'm going to select the same security group. I'm kind of going to call it loyalty DB. 3306 is the default port. And I am going to go ahead. I am not using IAM authentication. No need to do encryption on this. So a couple options here. We're not going to do monitoring and not going to need it. And we are going to allow minor version upgrades and no preference on the window. So we will get some unannounced downtime if it does it. So just going to double check the settings here. Always a good choice to do. And I am going to allow this to be publicly accessible because I want to be able to connect to it from my desktop. If I was running something in production, I would lock this down a little bit further. So I'm just double checking the settings here. And let's go ahead and launch this guy. So this will take a couple minutes to launch. I'm going to pause the video while it's doing that, and we'll come back and inspect it once it's completely launched. All right, I've resumed the video, and the instance is now up. So when you come into your RDS console, you can see the dashboard here and the number of DB instances that you have. Click on that. We can see my database instance called RFB Loyalty, and it is now available. And you can see some metrics on here as far as CPU utilization, and obviously nothing has connected to it at this point and no maintenance is being done. And then you can see additional information there. So we are not doing multi-zone. That's for high availability stuff. And let's go ahead and take a quick peek at that. So you can see additional metrics here about what's going on with it as far as memory and then IOPS. So a lot of stuff here. Obviously the database is just sitting there right now. Nothing's connected to it. And you can see a number of the configurations here. These are the security groups that we added, and we will be configuring those in a future video because right now we want to be able to connect to the database. Let's actually take a quick look here. So it is allowing all traffic. So we will go through this in detail. This video is getting a little bit long, so we will get into the security groups in a future video and maybe secure those a little bit more. I'll show you how to do that. And right now our database is up and running and happy for us. So that is all good. And you can see some of the metrics here. This would be the URL that you would go to connect to the database, and we will do that in an upcoming video.